Hey everybody, I'm Ellen here at etrailer.com, and we're going to take a quick look at this toolkit with Trifold Case from Performance Tools. So this is going to be kind of nice to have everything just in this easy to use case. It's pretty well protected. The case seems fairly sturdy. It's also got a couple of holes so you can mount this on the wall to have it at the ready whenever you need it, and you can pop that open. I think it'll still keep everything in place even if you were to open it on the wall. Let's try it out. Got a couple of tabs top and bottom to hold it together. So if we open it up, not so much. Some of the things are going to fall out, so I would say you probably would want to take it off of the wall to be able to actually use it. But let's take a look at what's actually inside here. So right off the bat, you'll have a wire cutting, stripping tool, and it also looks like it's going to be a crimp tool as well. So a lot of things in one. This can be pretty handy for any kind of wiring job. You also get an assortment of terminals. So you've got some ring terminals, some open-ended, and insulated or non-insulated as well. So a lot of options there. A length of electrical tape and a measuring tape as well. All in all, the impression that I get from the quality of these things is kind of basic. I don't think that this is going to be a tool set that you're going to use day in and day out. It's kind of a handy tool to have on hand when you need it, but this is not going to be something that you're going to use if you're a mechanic or you're doing a really big job. You'd probably want to get something a little bit higher quality. But I'm going to put my little sockets back here. These are an assortment of metric and SAE sockets. They do have a label printed on those, so it makes it pretty easy to figure out what goes where. That is one thing I have noticed about this case, though, is that these guys like to fall out, or at least fall out of place. So I'm putting all these back, and I'm not going to list out every piece that comes in this kit. That whole list is on our product page here at etrailer.com, so if you want to see each and every part that is listed in this, you can find that there. It is a 265 piece case, so that's why I'm not going to go through everything specifically. As far as the other tools you get in the kit, you get a 1/4 inch bit driver, some stainless steel scissors, an adjustable wrench, always handy, a wire brush, detailing brush, and some diagonal cutters or wire cutters, needle nose pliers, a set of wrenches, again, both SAE and metric. You get a knife. This is one of those kind of break-off razor knives. Again, really basic quality, but if you need something, it's going to be a great way to do a lot of different jobs, especially if you're doing any kind of wiring and it's going to be kind of messy and you don't want to mess up maybe some nicer tools. It can be a good way to do that. We've also got this little pocket. It's got a little plexiglass piece over it, so if you pull this out, you can get access to all the zip ties inside, which it looks like there's a lot of different sizes. You've got little bitty guys, some longer ones, a bunch of different white ones and black ones. And the colored ones are kind of nice because you can then use those to help color code things. So you can keep things separate if you want to go that route. I'm going to try out some of these tools on some wiring just to see how well they work, to figure out. The one last thing I do want to mention before we get to that, though, is this ratchet. So this is a 3/8 inch drive, and you can hear the gear teeth. That gives you a pretty good idea of the quality of that. Already it's kind of sticking a little bit, so again, this is not something that you're going to be using all the time. I think it's just kind of nice as a spare set. One thing I do like that they include in the kit is this little 3/8 inch swivel. It's got 2 points of swiveling, and these are sometimes hard to find as far as like coming in kits like this. So this is kind of nice. I like to see that because it really helps to get to those hard to reach bolts and nuts. So let's take a look at how this does with wiring. So I've got my wiring tool, and I've got a bunch of random wires here. So let's just see how well it does at cutting wire. There's a little spot in the middle here, so you do have to kind of put that through. That works just fine. And it also has a little guide to help you figure out what size wire you've got. So it looks like this is about 8 gauge. You can also use that to cut the wire as well. As far as the strippers, I'm going to use this guy here. This is really smaller than that, so I'm going to try it on the 12 gauge. Okay, so using the 14 gauge, I was able to get this stripped pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised with how well that worked, honestly, just because of this cutting edge. It's been painted over, so I was a little worried that it wasn't gonna really do the job there, but it did. Let's try some slightly bigger wire. This is more like 10 gauge, 12 gauge wire. Cutting that. A little bit harder. Oof. So this is probably an instance where you'd want to use your wire cutters in the kit. So those two do pretty well. I know I already had it started, so yeah, making its own cut just fine. No problems with that. Let's see how well we can strip this, which this is probably about as big a wire as you can really strip with this tool. So I'm just trying to kind of get it to cut into this insulation around it. Like I said, this is probably on the bigger side of what it can really handle. And I'm not sure it's going to work. Now, I don't have the strongest hands, so maybe you would have an easier time of it if you're a bit stronger than I am. But that's just really not one to go. So just trying to test it out. This is a really common size, that's why I wanted to try it. So I can't really get it, and I'm not going to sit here and try to mess with it and waste your time. I think for smaller wire than this, which I'd say this is more like 12 or 14 gauge wire. It worked pretty well. Anything smaller than that would probably also work fairly well. I've got a pretty small wire in here. Let's try that guy. This is probably like 18, maybe 16. That does just fine. So anything that's smaller would work out pretty well with this. As far as putting on a butt connector, I've got a few here. So we'll do a real small one for this little guy. So up at the top, it's got a couple of little kind of guides as to what size to use. So since this is the smaller ring terminal, I'm going to use that 22 to 18. Crimp that down. And that seems to get actually a pretty good crimp. I'll try my bigger wire with the blue guy. And this is going to be that 16 to 14 gauge. So again, color coded makes it a little easier just to quickly see what you should use. And these are heat shrink butt connectors, and I kind of crushed through, but it did give me a good crimp, so that also worked. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do, at least as far as that goes. So that works fairly well. Again, not going to work for everything that you might encounter if it is kind of bigger gauge wire. I think the other tools in the kit will work out pretty well for you. This is kind of like a beginner's set or a spare set, like I mentioned. And it seems to hold fairly well in here. The crimper tool doesn't quite sit down in that little area for it, so this kind of pops out. So as far as like how well this would do rolling around in a truck bed or in an RV compartment. It should probably keep everything inside the case for sure, but whenever you open it up, there might be a few things that are kind of out. As you can see, it does come with this foam piece. You don't have to keep that in there. I find that typically this kind of helps to keep everything where it should be, but that little guy is just going to come free. So always want to just open it from the top side to make sure it's where you want everything to be. Last thing I'm going to do is give you some measurements of this case, just for storage sake. So I'd say this is about roughly 14 inches by about 13 3/4 and about 3 1/4 inch tall. So that's pretty much it for our look at the Trifold Case tool set. I hope this has been helpful in deciding if this is the right tool set for you. We do have a lot of other options available here at etrailer.com, so if you want to find something different or just check out the other options, you should check those out right here. We also have a lot of other things for your RVs, trailers in general, and I'm Ellen with etrailer.com. Thanks for watching.